Welcome, and thank you for attending this webinar entitled Portion Control and Mindful Eating. My name is Julia Wilkins from the Health New England Health Management Team, and today we're going to be talking about how to monitor your food intake in a variety of environments, as well as how to pay more attention to what, when, and why we eat the food we do. Let's begin with a question about portion sizes. 20 years ago, if you were to get a chicken Caesar salad, it was about 390 calories and 1.5 cups worth of food. How many calories do you think are in that chicken Caesar salad today? I'll let you brainstorm. And the answer is 790 calories. That's a difference of 400 calories, which would take you an hour and 20 minutes of walking to burn off, just to burn off the excess 400 calories. But also notice that the portion size is more than double than it was 20 years ago. So not only have the calories increased, but the amount of food that we're eating has increased as well. Here are some interesting statistics about portion sizes throughout the last 30 to 40 years. Just the amount of restaurants that are around us have increased by 75% between 1977 and 1991, and more have come since then. Restaurants also offer more food for less money, so it makes going to a restaurant a lot more appealing because you want to get the most for your money. But studies show that eating out frequently, particularly at fast food restaurants, is associated with the increase in energy and fat intake, which results in a higher BMI or being overweight or obese. 2 comparison surveys were done in 1977 as well as 1998 to determine patterns and trends of portion sizes by type of food and eating location. These 5 types of food you see on your screen, salty snacks, soft drinks, hamburgers, French fries, and Mexican dishes, were chosen because they had the greatest percentage of change of energy in the U.S. diet. In 1977, when the data was collected, these 5 foods represented about 18% of the calories that we consumed here in the United States. Fast forward to 1998, and it represented about 27% of the calories that we intook. But not only are we consuming these foods more often, we're eating more of them. The study also found that between the 2 surveys, portion sizes increased as well. You can see, for example, in 1998, when salty snacks were consumed, we were eating 93 more calories each time we consumed that food versus 1977. So this raised an additional question. Would the consumption of food change based on the portion sizes people were given to eat? The thought was that people will eat more if they're confronted with larger portion sizes. The first study tested how adults responded to meals on different days of 4 different portion sizes of macaroni and cheese. They found that the bigger the portion, the more the participants ate. Participants actually consumed 30% more, or 162 calories more, when offered the larger portion. The very interesting part is that the participants also reported similar ratings of hunger and fullness after each meal, despite the larger or smaller intake differences. So people eating smaller portions reported feeling just as full as those eating more. Also, 45% of the people who took this study reported noticing that there were differences in the portion sizes that were served. So 55% didn't even notice that there were portion size differences. The second study was done on snacks, which have similar results. Researchers on 5 different occasions gave men and women an afternoon snack of potato chips. They were packaged in bags that looked exactly the same, but they had different sizes. For both men and women, they ate significantly more when given the larger package size. Women actually ate 18% more chips, and men ate 37% more chips. Now, this was a snack in the middle of the day, and when dinner was served to these participants several hours later, none of them made up for the fact that they had eaten more. They did not compensate for the differences in their intake. Therefore, the combined calorie intake from the snack and dinner increased significantly for both men and women who had the larger snack presented to them. So what do we mean when we say portion size and when we say serving size? Well, a portion size is the amount of food offered to you, whether it's at a restaurant or in a package or prepared food, or the amount that you choose to eat. So in the picture you can see a portion size of eggs would be 2 eggs. A serving size is a standard unit of measurement, like a cup or an ounce, and is shown on packaged foods. For example, take a bagel. A portion size would be 1 bagel. But if you looked at the label or nutrition information, you might see that it has 2 servings. But consumers often eat the whole thing thinking that they're eating 1 serving. This is where we can unintentionally overeat. So we will give you some tips on how to avoid these tricky large portions. No matter where you are, you can think about how big your portion size is. When you're eating out, try to share an entree with your partner or wrap up half of your meal to go before you've even eaten it. At home, at the dinner table, keep excess food out of reach. Don't put all the pots and pans on the dinner table so that you can serve yourself a second portion. If you want a snack while you're watching television, put those snacks in a bowl or a container. That makes you less likely to finish a whole bag or a whole pint of ice cream. If you like to buy in bulk, that's fine, but don't eat out of the box. When you buy that food, try to divide it up into little smaller containers or baggies so that when you want to eat it, you can just grab the portion size that you need. If you have tempting foods around you, you're more likely to consume them. So move them out of eyesight or store them on a high shelf or in a freezer. On the opposite side, if you have healthy foods available to you, like fruit and vegetables out in a basket on the counter, you're more likely to eat them. To avoid giving yourself large portions of food, use a smaller plate that will trick you into thinking that you're eating more because your plate is full, when really you're eating less. So now we know how to avoid huge portions, but this is how we serve a recommended portion size onto our plate. If you're at home or at a restaurant, think about the amount of food that you want and need for your body per day. Each day you should get about 5 cups of fruits or vegetables, 6 ounces of grains, 5 ounces of protein, and 3 cups of dairy. The picture on your screen shows a plate model of how your plate should look for each meal. Notice there are fruits, vegetables, dairy, grain, and protein in every single meal, and that the vegetables is the largest portion. When you can't weigh or measure food, having an object to compare it to is a good way of seeing if you're eating the recommended portion size or not. For example, if you're served a portion of meat, make sure you're only eating the amount that's the size of a deck of cards. If you ask for salad dressing on the side, make sure that serving of salad dressing or fat is only the size of a poker chip instead of adding the whole container that you're given. Try to study these examples so that when you are in a situation presented with food, you can make the smart decision. Not only should we be aware of portion sizes, but we should also be mindful when we eat. So what does it mean to mindlessly eat? Well, most of us don't overeat because we're hungry. We do it because we're at a party or a package is too big and we end up eating the whole thing. We're using a large plate. Our environment encourages us to eat more, or we're distracted. And most of the time when we overeat, it's higher glycemic index foods or carbohydrates. When we consume carbohydrates, our blood sugar levels spike, and restaurants are notorious for using high glycemic foods in all of their meals, including white potatoes, white rice, white pasta, and sugary beverages. Diets with high glycemic loads are associated with weight gain, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, metabolic syndrome, and some cancers. So this is why it's important to think about what you eat instead of just consuming it. You may be surprised to learn that you have less control over how much you eat than you thought. There are a lot of things that affect the consumption or volume of your food intake. A consumption norm to you is what your habit is or what you are used to seeing others do. If, for example, as a child, you filled your cereal bowl to the brim, you may view that as a normal portion now. It's also very hard to monitor the accuracy of what you're consuming. That's why it's important to learn those comparisons to a deck of cards, a poker chip, a baseball, or a hockey puck. It's very easy to think you had 1 cup of something when really it was 1.5 or 2. Your environment can play a big role in how much you eat. If you're at a party, a restaurant with low lighting, or there's a lot of noise, you may not notice how much you're eating. How much effort it takes to eat a food can also affect how much you eat. If you compare shelled versus unshelled peanuts, you will probably consume less shelled peanuts because it takes effort to open them than if they're already shelled for you. Eating with others can also influence how you eat, as well as other distractions like socializing and television. Not only does the environment around you influence your eating, but the food environment influences you as well. If a food is visible or on the counter, you're more likely to eat it. Think about someone having a candy dish on their desk versus the bag in their drawer. Which situation do you think someone would consume more candy? Variety of food can also be appealing to us. One study showed that those presented with a variety of colors of M&Ms ate more than those given only one color to eat. Because there was a variety of colors, people wanted to eat more to get all the different colors in. Just like the chip study, we increase our food intake when we're given bigger sizes, thinking that that size is a serving size when really it's portion size. Buying in bulk or in big containers can also make you eat more, as well as the shape of your foods, glasses, and bowls. Think about a wide, short glass versus a tall, thin glass of soda. It may look like you're drinking less if you use that short glass, but you could possibly actually be drinking more because it looks like less. It seems very easy to overeat. So how do we avoid mindless eating? We often overeat because there are signals and cues around us that tell us to eat. It's not easy for us to stop after every bite and think about whether we're full or not. So we look for cues around us. So here are some tips to try to create those cues around you to be mindful of when you eat. The first one is that you can use smaller plates. This really works. In every experiment that's been done, even ones where participants knew that they were fooling themselves, people ate less when they used the smaller plates. Another idea is to divide each meal in half. Put half aside. If you're at a restaurant, put half in a to-go container. If you've made the food at home, make sure you box it up and put it in the refrigerator instead of keeping it out when you eat. And stick to eating when you eat. Don't watch television or read a book. Try to eat at a dinner table or a designated spot where you won't be distracted. Think about eating each bite. You don't have to do this at every meal, but it's a great exercise to realize what just eating feels like. Another tip is when you snack, plate it so that you're not mindlessly eating out of a different container. It may be more inconvenient, but you will most likely be eating less. Put everything you want to eat on that plate, so that way you see everything you want to eat before you eat it, and it's harder to keep scooping the ice cream mindlessly out of the container. Lastly, eliminate 20% of your calories by putting back a fifth of the food on your plate. Studies show that people don't notice a 20% calorie deficit. We don't feel hungry or deprived when we're eating 20% less food than we need. So it's the easiest and most sustainable way to lose weight. More than 20%, people start to notice and might go back for a second serving. So try not to do this to an extreme. So from this webinar, you learned about portion sizes and mindful eating. Now I'm going to ask you to implement it into your lives. Try when you eat dinner to limit your portion sizes on your plate and model the picture you see on your screen. This is the preferred plate model from the USDA. Once you feel like you've got portion sizes down, try to incorporate the mindful eating tips, like eating at a dinner table or using smaller plates. If you have any questions, you can contact the health management team at healthydirections@hne.com. We hope this webinar has encouraged you to pay attention to your portion sizes, as well as to think about the foods you consume, why, and if you're still hungry. Thank you for taking part in this webinar, and have a great day.